MetaFacts Legends, History Ranked, Episode 1. Top 10 Ideologies that Changed and Scarred Human History. Top 7. Fascism, the March that Shattered Nations. What do you call an idea that turned parades into invasions, pride into persecution, and speeches into thunderous roars of submission? What if I told you there was once a time when millions raised their arms in unison? Not in celebration, but in absolute obedience to a single voice. Fascism didn't begin with bombs. It began with a fear of collapse, of communism, of chaos, and a promise to restore order through force. That promise led to the most destructive war in human history and the death of over 70 million people. This is the story of fascism, the ideology that seduced empires and burned the world. Let's start in post-World War I Europe. The year is 1919. The world is reeling from the Great War. 17 million dead, 23 million wounded. Germany is humiliated by the Treaty of Versailles, forced to pay crushing reparations and accept blame for the entire war. Italy, though on the winning side, feels betrayed, denied the spoils it was promised. Amidst this resentment and despair rises a man with a square jaw, a thunderous voice, and an unshakable vision of a new Roman Empire. His name is Benito Mussolini. Mussolini, a former socialist turned ultranationalist, coins a new word, fascism, from fasces, the Roman symbol of power, a bundle of rods bound around an axe. Strength through unity, he says, obedience, discipline, action, no room for dissent. In 1922, Mussolini marches on Rome with 30,000 Blackshirts. The Italian king, fearing civil war, hands him power. Just like that, democracy falls. Fascism is now state doctrine. Mussolini's Italy becomes a laboratory of control. Political opposition is crushed. Media becomes a megaphone for the state. Propaganda saturates every school, poster, and film reel. Believe, obey, fight becomes a national motto. By 1935, Mussolini invades Ethiopia. His test run for imperial glory, poison gas, mass executions, international silence. Let us go deeper into the figure who became the face of fascism worldwide, Adolf Hitler. Born in 1889 in Austria, Hitler was a failed art student who lived for years in poverty in Vienna before volunteering to fight in World War I, wounded and decorated during the war. He returned to Germany to find a broken nation and a shattered identity. For Hitler, the Treaty of Versailles was not just a political humiliation, it was a spiritual betrayal. In 1920, he joined the German Workers' Party and quickly transformed it into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazi Party. He was not just a politician, he was a master of theater, timing, and terror. In his speeches, Hitler didn't just speak, he mesmerized. His rallies were choreographed like operas, complete with spotlights, flags, uniforms, and slogans. One of the most disturbing aspects of Hitler's rise was how legally it happened. In 1933, he was appointed chancellor in a coalition government. By 1934, after the Reichstag fire and the Enabling Act, he became Führer. Democracy did not fall to tanks. It fell to applause. Under Hitler, the Nazi state fused party and government, education and indoctrination, science and eugenics. The Gestapo surveilled neighbors. Children joined Hitler Youth. Teachers taught racial theory. Even art was regulated to serve the ideology of Aryan purity. His book Mein Kampf, written in prison in 1924, outlined his vision: overturn Versailles, unite all Germans, eliminate Jews, and conquer Lebensraum, living space, in the East. Most dismissed it as the ramblings of a fanatic, but Hitler was deadly serious. By 1936, he remilitarized the Rhineland. In 1938, he annexed Austria, then the Sudetenland, then all of Czechoslovakia. Each time, Europe appeased him. Each time, he grew bolder. In September 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. World War II had begun. His strategy was blitzkrieg, lightning war, tanks, planes, and infantry moving in synchronized waves to overwhelm opponents. France fell in 6 weeks. Denmark and Norway were taken in days. But Hitler was not just a general, he was a genocidal ideologue. In 1941, he launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest military invasion in history, sending over 3 million soldiers into the Soviet Union. Behind the front lines, the Einsatzgruppen executed Jews, communists, and intellectuals by the thousands. Then came the final solution. Between 1941 and 1945, 6 million Jews were murdered in ghettos, mass shootings, gas fans, and death camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, and Sobibor. Hundreds of thousands of Roma, disabled individuals, Poles, and homosexuals were also killed. This wasn't chaos, it was systematic, bureaucratic, industrialized mass murder. And still, the German public was not fully blind. While some resisted, many complied, others benefited. Fascism had become a national contract. Security in exchange for silence. Pride in exchange for persecution. Hitler's fall was as dramatic as his rise. In April 1945, with Berlin in ruins and Soviet troops a mile away, he shot himself in his bunker. Germany surrendered days later. The Thousand-Year Reich had lasted 12. But his shadow lingers. Neo-Nazi groups exist today on every continent. Anti-Semitism continues. The tactics Hitler pioneered, disinformation, scapegoating, spectacle, are still in use. Sometimes in democratic societies. One Holocaust survivor once said, "The dead were dead. It was the silence of the living that haunted us most." So when we speak of fascism, we do not speak only of Mussolini's speeches or Hitler's marches. We speak of what happens when fear meets charisma, when pain meets propaganda, and when ideology becomes weaponized identity. MetaFacts Legends urges you not to see this as a history lesson, but as a living warning. We are not finished with fascism, but it might be finished with hiding. And it wasn't just Germany and Italy. Spain, under Franco, launched a fascist uprising in 1936. The Spanish Civil War became a testing ground for fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. Guernica was bombed, civilians were massacred. Franco won and ruled until 1975. In Japan, the military government pursued its own brand of fascism, ultranationalist, imperialist, and expansionist. In 1937, they invaded China and committed the Nanjing Massacre. Over 200,000 civilians were murdered. Japan joined the Axis. The world spiraled into global war. At its peak, fascist regimes controlled over 1 billion people across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Then, in 1945, fascism lost the war, but not the argument. Because decades later, its echoes remain. Today, politicians around the world flirt with the tactics of fascism, the cult of personality, the demonization of outsiders, the promise of greatness through fear. They may not wear uniforms, but they know the playbook. Fascism, as George Orwell warned, is less about doctrine and more about power, a boot stamping on a human face forever. So here we are, top 7 on our list of ideologies that changed and scarred humanity. Fascism did not last long, but in just a few decades, it killed over 60 million people, burned continents, and left a scar so deep that Europe built an entire union just to prevent its return. Let us never forget what happens when fear wins, when freedom falters, and when history whispers, but we do not listen. Now, we want to hear from you. At MetaFacts Legends, we don't just rank ideologies, we dig into the stories, the documents, the untold consequences. What part of fascism do you want us to explore deeper? The rise of Mussolini, the psychology of Hitler's followers, Franco's legacy, Japanese fascism and the emperor cult. Leave your comment below, it might just become our next full episode. And if you'd like to explore the archives, books, and declassified reports we've curated, check out the links in the video description. Subscribe, share, or support us if you can. This was Top 7, Fascism, and we're not done ranking the ideas that shaped the world. Next up, an ideology that won with peace, marched with silence, and disarmed empires with the moral weight of justice itself. Stay tuned.